All right, we're recording. I'm on the air here with my dear friend Ken Mottet.
Yay!
Hey Ken. Ken is the mayor of Rockabilly, and
I'm putting you in the position right now where you got to give me the big build up. I want to see how you promote me to the folks listening to your program.
Wow. Okay. Well, you're probably a role model for me, and I mean that sincerely. I haven't always been. When we first met, I was kind of an obnoxious kid, and I would watch the way that you would handle yourself, both socially as well as on stage. And you're a very deliberately affable person, and you are very diplomatic and fair-handed, and you kind of remind me a little bit of another person that I look up to, and that's Dick Clark. And that same kind of guy in my appraisal in a lot of ways. It's
thank you, Rocco. You and I met when we were both much younger, sometime in the early 1990s at the what was then called the Indianapolis Rockabilly Rebel Weekend.
It would have been late 90s. It would have been 97.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember that because I was just out of high school, so I was still of the age where I could remember things like that.
You still kind of smelled like a gymnasium.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I still there is still a little bit, just a little bit of puberty still kicking around inside of me.
Despite the fact that at the time you were about 9 feet tall and 4 feet wide, and pretty much commanded any room you entered. But you and I met at these Rockabilly events, and our eyes met across a crowded dance floor, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Indeed.
And we discovered that we had the fondness for the same stupid movies and stupid comic books and stupid rockabilly music, and here we are all these years later.
Yeah, indeed. So it's a fantastic thing, and I intend to have you on my quote-unquote show here more than once by a fair
Absolutely.
deal. Because we always have a lot to talk about.
You've been to my house on numerous occasions, and I've been to your place a time or two, and it always ends up the two of us looking at each other and kind of thinking, well, that was a good conversation. That should have been a program or something.
Yeah, indeed.
So here we are.
We're starting to figure it out. And you were kind enough to have me on your show once. Or twice, actually.
That's right. I used to have I had a radio show that was on a small 100-watt radio station out of my hometown in Fairfield, Iowa. I did a show there, and Rocco was my guest on the program on a couple of occasions. Just talking about rockabilly music and stupid stuff and movies and cars, and it was all good, clean fun. Speaking of which, I hope to be returning the favor with you here sometime in the very near future and having you as a guest on the latest thing I'm involved in, which is the Chicago Vintage Show, which anybody can find on Facebook. You can either search my name, Ken Mottet, or the Chicago Vintage Show, and it's a once-a-month show that is shot in the Chicago area, and it's sort of like the Tonight Show, but all about rockabilly stuff, and I'm lucky enough to be the Johnny Carson of the darn thing.
It's cool. I don't know if I've told you that, but it is. I'm really pleased that would turn out. It's neat.
I'm having fun, even if if I don't turn into an overnight YouTube sensation, I'm cool with that because I'm having fun. The journey is the fun, not the arrival.
Indeed, that's the name of the game. Well,
so why am I here? What are we talking about today, there, Bruno?
Well, we're in those days. I guess we're right at the end of those days, but those days in between Christmas and New Year's, which I really enjoy. Because nothing important happens. Everybody has sort of already had all of their events. They put their events out of the way. The gifts have all been opened. Whatever stress and existential dread that people might have going on is hopefully over with. Nobody quite knows.
When you think Christmas, you do think existential dread.
Some people do. I usually have a lot of fun at Christmas time, I have to say, but I realize that I'm very fortunate as a result of that, and not everybody has that, I guess. But
right.
But I know it's there.
You are hitting the old nail on the head there, brother.
Indeed. Well, and I worked in retail for years, so I remember how that was. I remember how that was, but even that I kind of liked. But this time of year, this little period, these 6 days, always make me think about one of my favorite movies, and also if not one of your favorite, or not if not your favorite movie, one of your favorite movies.
No, this is absolutely my favorite movie in the whole wide world. In the same way that Big Sandy and the Fly Ride Boys are my favorite band. My favorite movie in the whole wide world, released in 1982, The Immortal Diner.
Diner, absolutely, yeah. And
I would say right from the get-go, I know that there are women who enjoy this movie. My wife being one of them. Well, she's kind of been forced to like the movie because I tend to watch the film at least twice a year, sometime in the summer and then right around the Christmas holidays,
right.
Because the movie takes place during the period between Christmas and New Year's in 1959 in Baltimore.
Starts on Christmas night, ends on New Year's Eve.
Right. So when that time of year rolls around, I want to watch the movie. And the last time I sat down and watched it, I swear to God, she was right there next to me. And it was like she was seeing the film for the first time and also revisiting an old friend. She knows where all the lines are. She knows where all the jokes are. And yet she was just enjoying it as much as I do every time. I'm a very fortunate man that Mary is my wife, and there you go.
A dear friend of mine as well. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Did I introduce you to this movie, or did you know about it, and then I just kind of poked at you and said, hey, Rocco, this is my favorite movie. Here's my VHS copy that I taped off of Cinemax.
Yeah.
I now have a DVD copy. You can have my VHS copy.
You gave me I had seen the movie when I was a kid, and I didn't really completely know what I was seeing. And then you were just seeing guys with short hair and suits riding around in cool cars and talking, doing a lot of talking. And then I saw it again when during one of the couple week-long stints that I was staying at your house, just kicking around Chicago. Okay. You had gone and got it at a yard sale or an estate sale on VHS, and this is when DVD was coming. And you were like, "Here, watch this again. This is your job," because you were working, and you were like, "Here, your job for today is to watch this movie again." Now that you're a man.
200-page book report.
Yeah, exactly. Now that you're a man, and you were like, if you like it, keep it. And I still have it today. I'm looking at it right now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I'm one of the lucky ones because I saw the movie when it was released in 1982. I was in college at the time, so basically, I was the same age as the characters, in essence.
Right.
So what they were having, Diner, for those who haven't seen it, again, it came out in 1982. It stars a whole bunch of actors who hadn't become famous yet. Let's just run down the list. Steve Guttenberg, Daniel Stern, Mickey Rourke, Kevin Bacon, Tim Daly, Ellen Barkin, Paul Reiser, Michael Tucker. These are all people that became famous, and Diner was like the first or second film some of them had ever done. I believe in Kevin Bacon's case, he had made his appearance in Animal House, and then there must have been some other movies in between there, but then Diner was like his first major role as far as I recall. I could be completely wrong. And it's these characters who are all at this point early college age, not struggling, but just coming to terms with being adult men, having relationships with women. Daniel Stern's character is already married. Steve Guttenberg's character is about to get married.
Yeah.
And so it's that whole going from being a young man to trying to be an adult young man, all condensed into a 2-hour story. And on top of that, it's set in Baltimore in 1959. So if you're a rockabilly fanatic, you get to look at cool clothes and cool cars. The guys are sitting in a fantastic diner. It's everything you could ever want in a film.
Yeah. Well, and it feels like you're looking at dinosaurs right before the asteroid hits.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
Everything's about to change for these guys in ways that they can't even begin to comprehend. So that symbolism, I think, is very much deliberate, being 1959, going into 1960. But
right.
I feel like
there is a moment at the end of the film at Steve Guttenberg's character's wedding where you see the sign that is hanging over their wedding reception, and it says whatever it is, Eddie and Elise for the 60s and forever.
Right.
So yeah, it does give you that foreshadowing of here comes the 1960s, and boy, things are going to be different, but you don't know how.
Yeah, right. But at the same time, it's a movie that any guy who was ever that age, which is all of us, of course, can relate to it, I'm sure. Just that just goofing around, like staying up all night, doing nothing, talking about nothing, but somehow talking about everything, and just having just one momentous occasion after another. Like, I remember when I was right out of high school, like right before I met you, or right around the time that I met you for the first time, I was trying to keep a journal of what I was doing every day. And I had like a week in, and I was just doing dumb shit. I was going to bars, I was goofing off. But to me, it was huge. And I remember that I lost it, and then I tried to rewrite everything that happened. I was like, I can't even remember. Everything was so huge.
Right.
Because, you kissed a girl, whatever, like all these things that life sort of makes into just everyday occurrences for you later on, and you don't think about it too much. At that age, the world is kind of opening up for you. Even if your world is only as big as a diner and wherever pool halls or whatever else you're hanging out at.
Right. Exactly. And it does seem like, kind of a rollicking little adventure. Every little thing that they do is kind of a little adventure.
Yeah.
The movie starts with the characters going to a dance on Christmas Eve that's held in some sort of social hall.
Yeah.
But the first little adventure that we see is Kevin Bacon's character, who we find out later has had some major issues with his date at this event. He's down in the basement, obviously drunk, and with his bare fist breaking windows out of the basement of this social hall, and Mickey Rourke's character has to come and talk him down off of the ledge.
Yeah.
And it's those kinds of moments, like you said, they are little adventures, and they're at a very human level, but at the same time, they're larger than life.
Yeah.
And
well,
that's what...
Something that occurred to me about that scene, especially when I was watching it, is that I was thinking if this was a movie about a 40-year-old guy, he would cut his hand open on that glass. Like somehow when you're a young man, you can drink yourself under the table, right, and the next day eat a Big Mac for lunch and feel fine. You can drive fast in your car and not crash. Like it just, obviously people crash and all sorts of bad things happen to young people as well. But just somehow when you're younger, there's just this there's this resiliency that you have when you're a kid. And a lot of that is the truth in that movie.
There is that resiliency in most of the characters in the film, and you can see them, standing right on the edge of becoming grown up and adults and oh, am I going to lose my resiliency? Am I going to lose the magic? And yet there are shadows that, no, they can continue to be cool, even though they grow up and even though they grow apart, they can still continue to have this sort of magic that they have, despite that they have to go on and do other things.
Right. But it definitely leaves you wondering.
Who knew that Barry Levinson had packed this much into this film? I do. I swear to God, someday in my life, I will either get to meet Steve Gutenberg or Kevin Bacon or Daniel Stern or Barry Levinson himself. Yeah. And I hope I have the opportunity without, just becoming a blubbering, sweaty fanboy. I hope I can keep it together. Well, you've had the experience of meeting and personally interacting with a lot of your real heroes.
Yeah, I have. I've been very fortunate. They've all been pretty good.
I would hope that if that moment comes to me, that I have the presence of mind to just go, guys, thank you for making a movie that has literally guided me through the better part of my adult life. I'll give you, for instance, back in 1985, I had lived in Chicago for a brief period of time, and the opportunity came along for me to go to work for a television station in Anchorage, Alaska. Yes, that Anchorage, Alaska. So I packed all my stuff into boxes and shipped my stuff up to Anchorage, Alaska, packed my little suitcase, and my best friend Bob, whom I had been living with at that time, whom I had met in college, and whom I had been through many, many diner-esque things with. He's the one that hauled me to the airport, to O'Hare Airport. And as I'm getting out of the car, he gives me a big hug, shakes my hand, and quotes directly from the movie and says, well, we've always got the diner.
Yeah.
And couldn't have been more perfectly placed at that moment in time. At that moment, he wasn't doing a piece of dialogue from a movie. He was reminding me that, no matter where we go or what we do, we always have our friendship.
Yeah.
And bing, bang, boom, couldn't have asked for better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's funny how I was reading, this is one of many times that diner has kind of occurred to me. I was reading an article a while back where they were talking about how a lot of men, part of why men die faster than women a lot of times is that they can't make friends easily in adulthood.
Oh, that's very, very true.
Yeah.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, like it's easier, I think, for us because we have built-in interests, right? Like if you meet somebody that likes this, and this, it's like, oh well, okay, that guy's okay.
Right,
he
exactly.
knows what diner is.
As opposed to, say, someone that you meet in your daily employment. Well, there you're just thrown together by circumstances.
All right.
And unless you're lucky enough to, I don't know, both be Playboy photographers,
right.
Your job isn't really a commonality that's going to be a cornerstone of a friendship.
Indeed. Yeah, it's hard to do. But I thought about that with Diner. It's like these guys, they would never be able to remanufacture that bond, at least easily. And, there's not enough said about male friendship, to be honest. I think that it's something that we would all be better off if we tried to put in a further part of our brain towards the front,
Yeah. Well, really, I think that's what the whole crux of Diner is, and why it resonates for me. Well, you've pointed me towards something that hadn't really crossed my mind in terms of the film. As you said, the movie is about young men, male bonding, like you said, guys talking about absolutely nothing, and yet talking about everything simultaneously. As you know from 1,000 stories that I've told you about my own, high school years, college years, and what have you, that despite my position as sort of a swinging rockabilly socialite in Chicago, my youth involved not a lot of friends, not a lot of socializing, not really knowing how to be friendly and sociable with people. So when I moved to Chicago back in the 80s and met the rockabilly guys in Chicago, and like you said, we all had this commonality, this, love of Billy Lee Riley records, love of 56 Oldsmobiles, that as a starting point. And then you find yourself having these, conversations about everything and nothing all at the same time. That's where the friendship is born. Well, Diner reminds me over and over and over how fortunate I am to have the friends that I have, to have the social networks that I have, and to not take them for granted. A friendship is something that, and you see it in the movie, a friendship is something that you have to work on.
Yeah.
That you have to make a point to connect with your friends, to check in with the people that you like. And you even see it in the film. Tim Daly's character, what's the character name? Eddie, or not Eddie, Billy, who goes off to college out of town and comes back. It takes him a moment to get his feet under him to reconnect with the guys who, the other characters in the film who have stayed in Baltimore. Yeah. He's gone off to school in New York or somewhere.
Yeah.
But you see him, he drops right back into the harness, and yet at the same time, it's obvious that his character has had some experiences that have changed him, so he's not quite in lockstep with the guys like he used to be.
Yeah.
But still, they still have this overarching bond that will last, till the end of time.
Yeah. I like when he goes and he wakes up Steve Gutenberg, and they're in Steve Gutenberg's mother's house, and that whole thing,
It's obvious that these two guys have known each other since they are little kids. They speak in shorthand.
Right, yeah.
Out of nowhere, Steve Gutenberg says, "Am I losing my hair?" And Billy just comes back with, "Well, you still got a little up there."
Yeah.
And they move on back to the conversation that they were having.
Yeah.
But they make that little side trip just to go, "Oh yeah, we're watching out for each other."
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Every time I watch the film, and obviously, if I'm watching it twice a year since 1990, that means I've watched the film, 65 times?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Every time I watch the film, I see something that I've never seen before.
Yeah. There's little things in there to notice and to catch and to think about and sort of mull over, especially as you age and you can look at things with a little bit of different perspective.
Oh, yeah.
It's a much more finely made clock than I think most people would ever be aware of.
Oh, absolutely. There is a scene, and I hope it doesn't take me too long to set this up. The setup goes like this. Mickey Rourke's character is supposed to have sex with a local hot chick in order to win a bet. Well, the local hot chick bails out on him because she has a fever. 102. Yeah, that sounds bad.
But also, it kind of seems like she figured out that he's a dirtbag and she doesn't want to go with him.
Right. Well,
I like that that's left to be sort of a nebulous thing. Like it seems like maybe she does and maybe she doesn't.
Right. Mickey Rourke then gets together with Ellen Barkin's character, who is married to Daniel Stern, but Ellen Barkin and Mickey Rourke used to date in the past, and for whatever reason, because Ellen Barkin's character is unsure of herself at this point, and Mickey needs to win the bet, he convinces Ellen Barkin to go out on a date with him. Well, the scene where the two of them are having the conversation, where they decide to actually go on this date, which both of them kind of know is supposed to lead up to them having illicit sex. The sequence of the two of them sitting side by side and having this conversation where so much is said but so much is not said is a mind-blowing scene. It's some of the best acting you will ever see in a film between Mickey Rourke and Ellen Barkin.
Yeah.
They only say about 10 words, but it's all in their eyes. It's all in their body language. And it's when I first watched the film a million years ago, that scene would blow right by me, and I'd be like, yeah, this is boring. Get in the cars and drive around, drive around in your Finmobiles. That's so much cooler.
Right.
But now that I'm an old man, I watch that scene, I just get chills. That scene just slays me. It absolutely slays me.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot going on there, because you were talking about a married woman, right. And the guy is good friends with her husband.
Absolutely.
And he's messing up. Shrevey is definitely messing up in a lot of ways.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then Mickey Rourke's character, Boogie, is messing up. Ellen Barkin's character, Beth, she's going down a weird road at this moment.
Right.
And this is kind of a spoiler alert.
Yeah, we're spoilers. Well,
the film is from 1982.
Right.
It does work out for all the characters that there is no guilt. Bad things do not happen.
Right.
The voice of conscience awakens in all of the characters, and everything is cool.
Yeah.
And Mickey Rourke's character, Boogie, gives Ellen Barkin a little bit of advice in terms of saving her marriage, which apparently her husband, Daniel Stern, takes. And they do. You see them attempting to salvage their marriage at the end of the film.
Yeah.
So things are working out for everybody. All the kids are growing up and learning little lessons.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a fantastic piece of work, and I wonder how many people really truly have looked at it this closely. I know that Levinson is a very revered director, and that this is something that's highly thought of by a lot of people. But I just feel like there's so much more to Diner than most people really talk about.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's a lot going on there, and I think it's a film that both men and women can enjoy. And even if you're just coming at it as someone who has a fascination with the cars and the clothes and the architecture of the 50s, that's a great way to enjoy the film too. I learned so much about how to dress from watching this film back in 1982. Daniel Stern's character wears what I call a frumpy coat in the whole film. It's an overcoat, but it's not a long overcoat. It's just long enough to cover a sport coat. I think they might have called them car coats or whatever. This is the film that taught me about those shorter overcoats, and I probably got at least a half a dozen of them in the closet, simply because of watching Diner.
Yeah, because it's definitely a sort of a trip through people that were not, leather jacket, jeans with a cuff, boots, ducktail. These were not those types of cats. These were These were these guys.
And I have talked with more than one person who are the kind of person who is critical of Diner because the haircuts are not quite period appropriate. And I'll give that to people. I understand that. Now, admittedly, with Mickey Rourke's character, who works in a hair salon, one of the characters, Daniel Stern's character, jokingly says to him at the diner one time, says to Mickey Rourke's character, "Ever think of doing your own hair there?"
Yeah.
Which is obviously a slam at the fact that Mickey Rourke's character is, like his hero Elvis, a little longer than it ought to be.
Right. Yeah. He's doing his own thing. The story was
Absolutely.
that Mickey Rourke, true to form, didn't really get the movie. He didn't like the characters. He didn't like the other guys.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm surprised that you didn't know that. There's a pretty good documentary that's probably on the DVD the DVD version that you have. If not, let me know and I'll make sure you see it somehow or another. It might be on YouTube.
You got it. one of my favorite things to do, if you really want to have like whiplash in front of your TV watching movies, bust out the DVD of Diner and watch Mickey Rourke in 1982, and then immediately follow that with Mickey Rourke starring in The Wrestler.
Oh, it's insane. It's insane. If you told me that a drifter murdered Mickey Rourke and took his place, I would find that more believable than the actual true story of his
Mickey Rourke
near demise.
Went from being the Mickey Rourke of the 80s to the Mickey Rourke of current time.
It's insane. Well, you know what happened was that he used to box and he got hit in the face and he got his orbital lobe broken, that part of your skull that holds your eyeball in place. So after that, he had an eye that was fishing around, and that was what prompted all these surgeries that he had.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It just got a little out of control.
Yeah, it came from getting beat the hell up. But
okay.
Yeah, there were stories of how like Tom Cruise and people like that would come by the set and they would just watch Mickey Rourke act because they were all kind of in awe of him. That generation of actors.
He's very good.
Yeah.
He's got some sort of mystic mojo going on, and you really see it in Diner. Or at least I really see it in Diner.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, I've loved this film from the first time I saw it, sitting in the theaters. When the end credits are rolling, and you hear the characters in the diner having a conversation led by Paul Reiser, and again, it's a conversation about nothing and everything all at the same time. And under it is the music of Jack Scott singing Goodbye Baby.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a mind-blowing... I think that might be the moment that introduced me to the music of Jack Scott.
Yeah,
so, again, I owe it to Diner introducing me to Jack Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, something interesting, too, about that scene and about Paul Reiser's role in the movie completely.
Right.
I'm sure that you've noticed that on the DVD... or the VHS, Paul Reiser, the cover is sort of the guys at the end of the movie surrounding the table.
Right.
And there's no Paul Reiser there if you look at the old movie poster.
Right,
Paul
exactly. It's Daniel Stern, Mickey Rourke, Kevin Bacon, Tim Daly, and Steve Guttenberg. Those are the five guys that are posted.
Yeah, but then on the DVD and on the VHS, Paul Reiser is sort of photoshopped in there. Like they put him in there, but he wasn't originally. Originally, he didn't really rate as a main character, and they sort of changed that later. You know, like almost like a no prize.
Right.
And I remember seeing that and thinking, like, why is he? But then the next time that I saw the movie, I noticed that Paul Reiser's character doesn't really have an arc. Like, he's almost like an ascended extra, as they say. Like, he was so good at what he was doing, and he's so good in that movie that it feels like... Because most of that stuff at the end, I found out later, was ad-libbed. He was just doing... He was just...
I can believe that.
Yeah, because he's a funny guy. You know, he's a comedian.
There's a piece of dialogue that Paul Reiser has in the course of the film where he's riding along in a car with Mickey Rourke, and just out of nowhere, Paul Reiser says... You know what word I'm not comfortable with? Nuance.
Yeah.
It's not a real word.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward ahead to when he was doing Mad About You, which was done by his own production company, which was called Nuance Productions.
Yeah. Come on.
The Diner just continues to... It's a starting point for a lot of people, and it's when my friend Richard got married many years ago. I was best man at the wedding, and at the wedding reception, I got up and I gave a speech, which was the speech that Paul Reiser gives at the end of Diner at the wedding reception.
Yeah.
That's how much of a psychopath I am. I'll take it one step farther. There is a scene in the movie where Kevin Bacon, drunk out of his mind, is basically sitting in the manger scene outside of a church.
Yeah.
There is a church not all too far from where I live here in the Chicagoland area that has the exact same manger figures as appear in the movie Diner. And every year they set that thing up, and I go over and I make my wife take pictures of me standing in that manger seat. Because I can't believe I'm standing in front of the same plastic figures that were used, not the same figures, but the same kind of figures.
Yeah, same company made them, bro.
That are used in Diner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. Pretty fantastic. Which character do you think you relate to the most?
I am going to say, boy, that's a tough call. I've never really looked at it that way. I realize, of course, that Tim Daly's character is the stand-in for Barry Levinson himself.
All right, yeah.
Even though Barry Levinson is very circumspect about that. Like, oh, there's a little bit of me in all the characters.
Right,
no, you're Tim Daly's character of Billy.
Yeah.
I would say out of all the characters, I'm probably Daniel Stern's character, Shrevey.
Yeah, I would say so.
He's the married guy. He's the record collector, although he's a completely mental record collector.
All right, yeah. Which a lot of them are, sure.
Which brings me to Ellen Barkin has one of my favorite lines in the film, and you don't even see her say it. You see her hand in close-up. Daniel Stern and Ellen Barkin are married, and there's a point where Daniel Stern wants to have a conversation with his wife. Well, she's out in the kitchen, and he says, Beth, can you come here? And Beth says, Ellen Barkin says from the other room, I'm doing a crossword puzzle.
Yeah.
At which point there is a close-up shot. She's actually painting her nails.
Yeah.
Why in God's name does she lie about what she's doing in the kitchen?
Yeah. Well, she doesn't want him to know that she goes in any trouble.
Maybe that's what it could be.
Right?
Maybe
that's how I always took that. It's like that period thing of like, a lot of times women were told, don't ever let them see you shave your legs, or
that could be.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Like that's sort of how I took it, And along that line, a lot has been made of how the movie supposedly has these sort of misogynistic tones. And to me, it's always been more about the fact that these guys are scared of women in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's more fear-based than anything. All of their kind of bravado.
Absolutely.
When it comes down to
I believe one of the characters says, women are so mysterious, and it doesn't get better over the years.
Right, yeah. What fucking Chisholm Trail? Do you get the feeling they're all in on something that we don't know about? And I think my favorite line in the movie is when Tim Daly, who's really just going through the ringer with the relationship that he has with a woman, is talking to Steve Guttenberg, and they've had a long night out, and he just says, women are pain.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they just get more pain. Just gets more painful.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any truer line in any movie that I've ever seen in my life, and it always resonates with me. And there's just so much truth in that movie. It's I don't think they really make movies like that anymore. It's if it's gonna have that level of emotional truth, it has to be about something. Everybody talks about how Seinfeld was a show about nothing, but like Diner really is. I mean, it's just,
absolutely.
The original center point piece for the movie was going to be that they all go to the game, and it was going to cost too much money to shoot that, so they took it out, and the movie ended up not even being about the climax of the movie.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a movie without a real climax.
Instead, just have the Baltimore Colts marching theme being played by the church organ at Eddie's wedding.
Right. Yeah.
Now, my friend Jennifer, some years ago, completely hit me with a curve in regards to Diner. She said, "You like Diner? That's a very Jewish film."
Oh, yeah.
And I had to stop and think about it, and I realized that most of the characters in the film are Jewish.
Yeah. That's why nobody gives a shit about Christmas.
Well, that could be.
Yeah.
There is a Jewish wedding underneath the chuppah at the end of the film. The whole bit, but it never crosses my mind that, these are Jewish characters. Well,
yeah. Well, I mean, I think so much of, I think when you're into entertainment, I was having this conversation with my friend Joe a while back. When you're into entertainment, especially mid-century entertainers, all that Jewish stuff, we're almost kind of like partially Jewish just by proxy somehow. Because there's so much.
It's like there is a documentary that's out right now that points out the fact that all of the great Christmas songs were written by Jewish songwriters.
Yeah. How about it? Go figure.
But that's also because I think at the point in time that all of the Christmas songs were being written, I think about 90% of the songs in America were being written, in the 20s and 30s. 90% of the songs in America were being written by Jewish men and women.
Yeah, in New York, Tin Pan Alley.
They were the ones that figured out, hey, we got to get in the songwriting business and make a name for ourselves, and it all worked out.
Indeed.
Well, I have to say I'm extremely grateful for the fact that when I introduced you to the film, you took to it.
Yeah,
Because there's always that chance. I remember being on an airplane, a long airplane ride with my bandmates. I played in a band called the Gin Palace Jesters years ago. We went to Europe, and on the flight back, one of the films that they showed was the Peter O'Toole film from the 1980s, My Favorite Year, which directed by Richard Benjamin. Again, one of my favorite movies. And I said, "Oh, guys, this is one of my favorite films. I hope you enjoy it." And at the end of the film, their basic response was, "Meh."
Well, it worked.
Broke my heart.
It worked. Well, that one works. We're almost out of time. Unfortunately, we got to wrap it up. This thing's going to cut off in about 3 minutes. You got any last words about Diner that you'd like to share?
Well, to borrow the words of one of the actors in the DVD, you sit down, you watch it. Worst comes to worst, you've lost 2 hours of your life, and maybe you'll enjoy it. It is my favorite film of all time. So it has served as a guidepost for me throughout the bulk of my adult life, and it's got cool cars and great clothes. It really does. It really does. Rocco, it's been a pleasure being with you.
Same to you, Ken. Happy New Year. Fantastic stuff here.
Asta.
All right, thank you.